So welcome again to our July 2023 Local Food Town Hall. I'm Rebecca McMahon. I am the Local Food Program Administrator for K-State Research and Extension. And to kick us off today, I have a quick poll that I'm going to start for you. So in case you can't see it on your screen, it's just asking if you've attended one of our quarterly local food town halls before. So give everyone a minute. To respond. So if you're just joining, you should see a poll, a meeting poll popped up. Okay. So it looks like a number of you, this is your first local food town hall, so welcome. And a number of us have been there a few times. So again, welcome to everyone. So let me get my screen share up here. Okay, so we have a great agenda planned for our local food town hall today, and we're glad to see all of you here with us. And let's see. So we did the poll. So our agenda for today, we're starting as usual with our lightning presentations. Today we have Dr. Becca Jablonski from Colorado State, Dr. Katie Starzec from K-State, and Trace Mulligan from the Kansas Department of Ag. And then myself and Amanda Lindahl will be sharing more about our Regional Food System Partnership Grant a little bit later. And as always, if you have announcements or things related to local food systems that you'd like to discuss, you can drop those in the chat or hold those until closer to the end. So I also want to note that recordings of all of our previous town halls can be found on our website, which we'll talk about here in a little bit as well. So with that, I am going to jump right into our lightning presentations. And so with these presentations, they're meant to be about 5 minutes. We have our three presenters hopefully up and ready to go. I saw Becca joined a little bit a few minutes ago. And so if you have questions for the presenters, what I would encourage you to do is to put them in the chat. And after all three of the presenters have had their chance to cover their content, then we'll have about 10 or 15 minutes for some Q&A with all three of our presenters. So try to get through all three presentations, put your questions in the chat, and we'll get those to the presenters as we go. So with that, Becca, if you want to unmute, I will run the slides and you can let me know when to advance things.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Sounds good.
Good. Okay, great. Well, thanks to Marlon for inviting me to speak today to talk a little bit about the value of faculty extension positions to support university food systems work. I'll say before I get started here that, of course, nothing is perfect. So don't let what I'm presenting here today make you think that like everything at CSU is just roses. Right? I'm happy to talk about some challenges as well. And the other thing is that I'm a little bit uniquely positioned, I think, in doing extension work from a faculty position in the sense that I started as a county-based extension agent. So when I started, I was a county-based extension agent, one of the first agricultural economic development specialists for Cornell Cooperative Extension in between my master's and PhD. So it does give me a slightly different perspective on research and extension than I think maybe some other faculty members have. So those are my caveats in getting started. Next slide, please. So as you all very well know, universities are really big and they're super complex. And it's really challenging to navigate them. And especially as land grant universities, we have extension, we have what happens on campus, we have ag experiment stations, we have all of these arms, like CSU just built a Denver-based campus. And figuring out how to navigate these when really food systems work and local and regional food systems work intersect all of them is incredibly challenging. And I have found that my vantage as a faculty member probably allows me to navigate more of these and understand more of these than might a county or regional extension specialist, and even more so than a state-based extension specialist, I think, in a lot of cases. And so I'll give you one example of the things that I've been able to support because of that. We realized that there were people coming to Colorado State University who wanted to figure out, well, what's CSU doing in food systems work? And there had been no place where you could go and get sort of a main entry into all of the work that was happening across extension and the university. And so we built this foodsystems.colorado.state.edu website to try to showcase all of that work. Probably in, I think it was 2016 was when we launched this website. Now, it is by no means perfect. What we don't do is highlight research that's happening or extension work that's happening in a particular county or that's happening from a bench scientist, right? If there's someone who's doing work on obesity in rats, that's not what this is intended to do. This is really where we see an issue or topic that's elevated to a statewide issue. So it's happening in multiple places. And also where we see interdisciplinary collaboration happening at the university level. And this is where we're trying to showcase this. We are right now investing a significant amount of resources in trying to make this website a lot better, because one of the things that we realize is that we have students that are trying to access it. We have extension specialists, we have nonprofits, we have other university partners, we have research partners, we have funders, right? And so we're trying to figure out how do we actually make this better? And it is not something I'm good at, but something that I think I'm well positioned to support because I understand so much of what's happening in all of these different pockets across the university, as do a few of my other partners in crime. Next slide, please. So one of the other things is that as a faculty research extension specialist, I have been able to co-lead our food systems extension work at CSU since about 2016. And so what we can do there is help to navigate how do we identify what the areas of focus are? And that's really important because then as a statewide person, I can devote resources to it, resources to support research, resources where we can actually go out and get really large grants to elevate these efforts, where we can talk about them to policymakers at local, state, and federal levels, right? And we can figure that out. So there's two primary ways I thought I'd highlight today that I think someone in my position can do that. One is we have meetings of our entire extension team at least once a year, sometimes twice, depending on funding. And so this is an example of a meeting we held too many years ago now, prior to COVID, where we basically went through and had all of the people on our team say, okay, these are some topics I'd work on, I'm working on currently, or that I want to be working on that we're seeing as really important topics in our county. Where they started to come up multiple places, we could start to say, okay, this is where we need to devote some statewide effort. Next slide, please. Another way that we do this is because of the role that I have, and also one of the things that happens under the Food Systems Institute that I now co-lead is we facilitate the Governor's Food Systems Advisory Council, KSRE. And so we really are trying to be attuned to what are some of the things that are coming through the state legislature that are going to impact the stakeholders that we work with in extension, and where we need to do research and get additional funding or provide support. And so there's just two examples right here, which is that there was an ag labor bill that was introduced and then passed, and it was really challenging for a number of reasons. And then we also had some farm to school legislation that was introduced and then passed. And there are lots of areas there where both as extension and research and others that we can provide support, and we can identify these areas of focus. Next slide, please. So I said that, as a researcher, and as an extension faculty member, there's a lot of ways that I think I'm more uniquely positioned to help provide funding in particular to support these different efforts, and to also help. So I review a lot of grants that our county-based or regional specialists are submitting, but I also write a lot of grants. So I would say that even as PI, I'm bringing in well over $1 million a year to support programming. And then if you think of the work I do as a PI and a co-PI, it's much larger than that. And we bring this funding in from a lot of different diverse sources. And one of the reasons that we're able, and someone like me is able to get these funds, is that many of these grants require a research and extension component. And this is something I've been trained, I think, for a lot of years to be really good at, like this grant writing. And part of the reason we're so successful is because we've done what happened in those last two slides, right? We're really identifying what those topics are that are really important from across the state, from those two different perspectives I mentioned. So you can see here on the left a list of some of the programs that we've been able to bring in significant support, financial support and human resource support for, and just a few of the funders that I thought I'd mention. Next slide, please. And then this is an example that probably on the bringing them together perspective could be improved upon. Like Colorado has been leading a building farmers program for well over a decade. I was not involved in starting this program, but I did do the initial evaluation of this work. And it's really, I think it's a pretty impressive program. I'm not sure the latest numbers, but I would think we've had at least 750 aspiring farmers and ranchers go through it over well more than a decade. And so that's a really awesome program that's gotten a lot of funds on its own. And then I helped to lead a number of the research efforts that are happening through the USDA's Beginning Farmer Program and USDA Economic Research Service. And so we really try to think about, even though the research is national, how do we take some of the outputs from that national work and make sure that they are integrated into the education that we're doing for farmers and ranchers on the ground, right? And there's a lot of opportunity to think about what does that actually look like, and not just sort of guessing at, well, we think these things are probably going to work, right? How do we actually leverage, for example, I use a lot of restricted access data from the USDA that I can get access to as a researcher to actually do that kind of work. Next slide, please. So to end here, I know we don't have much time. One of the things I was also able to do as a new faculty member was to start the CSU Extension Internship Program. And so when I started this program, of course, I went to the extension leadership and said, we really should be doing this. And they said, great, you're the chair of the committee, which is right how it usually works. But I think because I was a faculty member, I was able to tap into all of the different deans across the university, as well as the Office of the Vice President for Research, communicate the value of this program to research, even though it doesn't necessarily seem an extension internship program would be that. Also to the president of the university and also to our provost. And so we've been able to grow the funding of this program. I think we're at about $750,000 in funds. All of these students are paid. We have almost 90 students participating from across the university this year. And I think it's been one of the most successful programs to actually link campus and field, because those students are the bridge builders across campus and field, right? Faculty members are all too busy. Extension agents are all too busy. We need people to actually force people to connect. And last slide. And then I think another big output that I've been able to help lead is that we now have a Colorado Food Summit. So I gave those examples of legislation. We have a lot of legislation through our state, I'm sure you do as well, that are pretty controversial. And we see growing polarization across different stakeholders that we work with in food systems. But we know when we talk about local and regional food systems that it impacts a really diverse range of audiences, from commodity producers to urban agriculture, right? Everything in between. And so we've started this statewide food summit. This is going to be the third year. We're for last year, for a one-day event, I raised over $160,000. This year we'll raise well over $200,000 for the first two-day event. It sells out 6 weeks in advance every year, and even though we keep growing the numbers, and it's just an opportunity to really start these conversations about how we bring together these different regional topics, rural, things that rural stakeholders care about, also urban stakeholders, and actually facilitate a conversation. And last thing is just that this effort takes me more time than I could ever explain. I cannot believe how much time I spend on this, but I believe that to do my job and to do all of our jobs effectively, we have to start bridging those gaps, and we can't just talk about one type of agriculture or another. And so I really think that this helps to be an output for all of those research and extension projects, and just a really important way to bring people together. Okay, enough from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Jablonski. If you hang on for the next couple of presenters, we may have some questions for you down the road. Okay, so our next presenter is Dr. Katie Starzec with K-State Ag Communications. Katie, if you want to unmute and go ahead and share.
Thanks, Rebecca, for inviting me to share a little bit about a project I've been involved in. And Becca, that great talk, it ties into some of what I'm gonna talk about. So I'm Katie Starzec, an assistant professor in agricultural communications at Kansas State. And this spring, the Natural Resources Conservation Service in Kansas and the Kansas Association of Conservation Districts contracted with us to talk to small-scale growers and specialty growers and urban growers in Kansas about their needs, challenges, and success factors. And the point of the study was that USDA is aware that their programs and services are mainly built for conventional, larger-scale agriculture, and they want to know how to better serve urban and specialty growers. So we interacted with 57 growers in Kansas throughout 12 small focus groups. Most of them were in person, some of them were through Zoom. We got IRB approval beforehand, and during those sessions, it was only growers' voices in those sessions. NRCS, agency folks, extension were not in these focus groups. We even had graduate students lead the focus groups so that our ideas weren't getting in the way of grower voices. And I do want to acknowledge we aren't the first group in Kansas to conduct this type of study. There have been some great master species that I've read that overlap with a little bit with what we've done. We're just using a different type of method. But what I'm going to share with you here is just a fraction of what's in the report linked on the slide, and I'm guessing that's just been shared in the chat. NRCS and KACD were very interested in growers' natural resource concerns because of what they do for the state. And what we found in terms of potential programming for them, I'm just going to highlight a few things here. Growers need help with access to water. None of these are that surprising, but it's good to have confirmation here. Growers need help with access to water. They're using a lot of different ways to get water. And with the drought this year, that came up a lot. But it's not just drought-related water concerns. They need help knowing what irrigation systems to invest in and different setups to use. So water was a big topic. To this natural growing style bullet on the slide, most of our participants were not certified organic. Some were, but most were not. Most of our participants seemed to want to grow pretty much organically. They just didn't want to go through the process to become certified. So a lot of our conversations touched on the need for expertise related to low or no chemical use for weeds and pests, and then related concerns about overspray from neighbors and other entities like solar panel farms. So they're concerned about chemical. They want to do low to no chemical, most of them, not all of them. Third, growers need help with soil amendments. An example, I've just put up a high tunnel and now I have to start from scratch trying to get my soil right. Or I have this one specialty crop that I grow and I don't have space to rotate crops for soil quality. So that was a helpful tidbit for NRCS to learn. And then enough people mentioned energy as a challenge, like the need for a solar pump to pump water or getting electricity to their high tunnel. So we included that in the report for NRCS too. But NRCS did not limit us to prompt them about challenges related to natural resources. We also asked them about other challenges that they face. And what we found with Kansas growers is pretty much consistent with other literature in other states related to small-scale specialty urban growers' challenges. But here highlighted in a few bullets, they struggle with capital costs. Just starting a business, but also an established business wanting to expand and grow. Sometimes they only need $1,000, sometimes they need $20,000, but they really struggle with investing, finding ways to invest in a way that makes sense for them, including finding labor, especially in the metro areas. Finding reliable labor so that they don't have to spend so much time training new people on the several different specialty crops that they grow. Second, they have information overload. There are so many entities trying to help them. They don't know where to go to get the information they're looking for, and they spend way too much time going down rabbit holes, wasting time trying to find something that they think should be more easy to find. There are a lot of resources out there, but they just don't have time to go look. They have challenges. Many of them have challenges in business management, financial management. They know how to grow stuff, but they need some help in running a business, navigating rules and regulations that can change through time or be interpreted differently by different regulators. A lot of them really expressed a need for more specialists who know what they are going through. More experts across the state, not just in metro areas, but in rural Kansas too. They mentioned both in extension and with USDA. Some of them have great experiences with extension or USDA or others, but some of them do not. Some of them are not getting what they need. Finally, they need help navigating grants and cost share. A lot of them have never applied for cost share or for grants before, and they find it a daunting process. This doesn't come as a surprise to any of us, but it just kind of reinforces that need to make sure they are set up with assistance in navigating the paperwork and all the steps you need to even do to get ready to apply for cost share or for grants. But yes, thanks to NRCS for funding this project. There's more information in the report, and we're still finalizing coding for a more formal publication. But I'm happy to answer any questions after the next speaker or by emailing me. My email's there too. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Dr. Starzec. The link for the full reports as well as focus groups with tribal members are also on their website. I highly encourage you to take the time and read through all of both of those reports if you're interested in this topic. So our third speaker this morning is Trace Mulligan with the Kansas Department of Agriculture. So Trace, if you want to unmute.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you for the introduction and giving us the opportunity to discuss the Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Program that we are currently in the process of writing our state plan for. It's something that we're really excited about as a state, and we think it can benefit a lot of different people within the middle of the supply food chain within the state. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. For a little bit of a program overview, back in May, about the 23rd of May, we signed our cooperative agreement with the USDA AMS to take part of the RFSI program, and KDA itself has been awarded about $6.5 million to build resilience in the middle of the supply chain and strengthen local and regional food systems by creating new revenue streams for our state's producers of human consumption foods. Specifically from the USDA, the middle of supply chain is defined of when a product is leaving the farm gate to be processed or aggregated and up until it is sold for the consumer. The KDA will work in partnership with the USDA to subaward competitive infrastructure grants to Kansas food and farm businesses and other eligible entities. Other eligible entities include nonprofit organizations, local government entities, tribal governments, and institutions such as schools and even hospitals. Eligible food products are crops and products meant for human consumption. That includes specialty crops, dairy, grains, and others, but it excludes meat and poultry products. So these grants cannot be used for meat and poultry purposes. And with that, the USDA defines specialty crops in particular as fruits and vegetables, dried fruit, tree nuts, horticulture, and nursery crops, including floriculture. Individual applicants can apply for infrastructure grants for a minimum of $100,000 and a maximum of $3 million. Recipients are required to contribute 50% of the total proposed project cost as a match. So if you have a $200,000 project, you can apply for a $100,000 grant, and you will have to match up to match that additional $100,000. But with that, that can be an in-kind match. So you can fulfill that match with an in-kind type of a match, and not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to be a monetary value. And the KDA can reserve up to $1 million for state-led supply chain coordination activities. Some coordination activities could be hosting workshops. It could be doing some sort of a supply chain data assessment for the state of Kansas, and also different regions within the state of Kansas. So there's a lot of opportunities that the state can do for supply chain coordination activities. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Rebecca. Specific infrastructure grants that can be a part of this. Big things whenever we look at these is to remember that these need to try to fall within the middle of the supply chain that's defined by the USDA, and then to also make sure that it excludes meat and poultry. So some specific infrastructure grants that are eligible is expanding processing capabilities, including adding product types, increasing production volumes, and supporting new wholesale/retail product lines. Modernizing equipment or facilities through upgrades, repairs, or retooling, purchasing and installation of specialized equipment, such as processing components, sorting equipment, packing and labeling equipment, or delivery vehicles. Modernizing manufacturing, tracking, storage, and information technology systems. Enhancing worker safety through adoption of new technologies or investment in equipment or facility improvements. Construction of a new facility. Increasing packaging and labeling capacities that meet compliance requirements under applicable laws. Increasing storage space. This can include cold storage or cool storage. And we're excited that that's probably going to be some areas that hopefully we see some grants for, is to increase cool and cold storage. Develop, customize, or install climate smart equipment, and modernize equipment or facilities to ensure food safety. So a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different things that can fall into these infrastructure grants that we're really excited about. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. I saw one thing pop up in the chat box for a quick question. Meat and poultry is excluded because under the USDA AMS, they have their own particular grant that is specific for meat and poultry infrastructure grants. And so that's why this is going to benefit different growers, different producers, different businesses within the state of Kansas that do something other than be involved in the meat and poultry business. If you have any specific or technical questions about the RFSI program, feel free to call me, shoot me an email, or you can also reach out to Brittany Grother, who is our grants coordinator. And she would be a great resource as well to also get you in touch for other grants that the KDA is involved with.
Thanks, Trace. I know that you said that you're in the process of writing your state plan. Do you have any idea as far as timeline about when you expect to open grants for entities in Kansas to apply?
Yeah, so our state plan right now is due August 23rd, and we are still doing outreach right now for that. So if there is anybody that would like to provide feedback for where the state should possibly put priorities whenever it comes to giving out the grants, a public forum can be found on the KDA website. So please, if you're on the call and you haven't heard about that yet or seen that yet, we'd love to hear your feedback. In terms of the actual infrastructure grants, we're hoping to launch that in the application process sometime in the winter. We don't know exactly when that will be yet. We'll still have to have our state plan be approved by the USDA, and then we'll launch that application process.
Okay, so thanks again, Trace, for talking about that program. I'm really excited about that program as well, just to see what opportunities it can provide for all of us. So if you have questions for the speakers, you're welcome to put those in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, I can invite you to unmute and you can ask out loud. I know there was one question for Katie about the report regarding what NRCS plans to do in response to the report or as a result of the report. If you want, I know you put an answer in the chat, but if you want to go ahead and give that out loud as well.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a great question. The goal was to get this report to NRCS so they could review it before their summer programming meeting. Their meeting to decide what do they want to do new for programs, and what do they need to adjust for programs. I don't know the specifics of what they will be adjusting or are thinking about adjusting, but the whole goal was to help them make informed decisions about program adjustments, but also technical service. NRCS technicians can come out and visit and say, here's some advice about your soil. And they don't really know what the resource concerns exactly are for, an acre versus, 1,000 acres. So and then KACD, the Kansas Association of Conservation Districts, they're going to be taking this information too, because they district managers in every county are with this organization, and to do more outreach and to try to help to connect growers and try to fix some of these challenges, or at least help fix them.
Okay, thanks, Katie. We have another question. I think this is for Trace. When will the infrastructure committee begin to meet?
Perfect. Yeah. So internally at KDA, we've already begun meeting. And as soon as I guess the infrastructure program was announced, we started meeting internally. There is not necessarily an external committee at the moment, but we are reaching out to externally, like I said earlier, to provide feedback for where the KDA should put priorities. We will have an external review committee for the within the competitive application process, where we are going to pull in people from outside of the KDA to help us review the applications. And with that, we want to make sure that everybody that is on that review committee won't necessarily be putting in for the grants or anything like that. So if you would like to provide feedback, we ask that is in from the public by August 1st, because as August 1st rolls around, we're going to start writing our state plan.
Thanks, Trace. Any last questions for any of our speakers? Last chance. Okay, well, a big virtual round of applause to Becca and Katie and Trace for joining us today. And I would welcome all of you to stay on for the rest of the town hall if you want to. Yeah, we understand if you have other things you need to get to as well. So with that, we are going to, my mouse got away from me. We are going to transition to talking a little bit about our K-State Regional Food System Partnership Grant project. And so the first thing to do is welcome Amanda Lindahl, who is our program coordinator. So I joined the team as the food system program administrator back in April, and now Amanda has joined us as a program coordinator, and she'll be talking a little bit about the part of the project she's doing here in just a couple of minutes. So we do have some updates regarding progress that we've been making on the grant. We shared a little bit about some of the overview aspects back in the April town hall and the January town hall as well. And so probably we're going to touch on the website, the community roundtables, and our fellows program here this morning. And so probably the most exciting piece of it is that our new website is live. It felt a little bit familiar when Becca was talking about, creating the website in Colorado State to pull everything together. And that's kind of how we felt building this website as well. So I think Clara is dropping the link into the chat. We will have a couple other URLs directed to it eventually. But for now, this is our URL, the kstate.edu/Kansas Local Foods. And I really encourage you all to take a look at it and poke around and see what resources are there that can be helpful to you in whatever your projects might be. And also, see if there's things that are missing. If you're looking for a particular topic or piece of information and didn't find anything, do let myself or Amanda know, and we can do our best to get that onto the website in the appropriate spot. So a couple things that I do want to point out here is on the Get Involved section. So on the website, there's the Get Involved spot that you can click. And this is where you're going to find the quarterly virtual town halls. We have a new mailing list that we're in the process of populating. Many of you are already on it. I moved you over from previous registrations to the town halls. But if you're not already, go ahead and sign up for that mailing list. It's how you're going to find out about upcoming virtual town halls and all of these other events and activities as well. And so as well as the roundtables, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. So check out the new website. Hopefully it'll be extremely useful for everyone. The next thing I wanted to share a little bit about is our local food community roundtables. I was hoping to be able to share the whole list of locations and dates today, but that just didn't happen. So we're still in the process of kind of finalizing dates and locations, but our plan is to have 12 in-person roundtables around the state in November, give or take a week or two. We may end up in October, December a little bit. And we are planning to have virtual options available because Kansas geographically is a pretty big state. And so even with 12 locations, there's going to be parts of the state that it may be infeasible for people to travel to an in-person roundtable. So our goal is to have all those finalized and on the website and ready for RSVPs in the next few weeks or so. We know we've got Colby, Hutchinson, Wichita, Topeka, and Ottawa as set locations. And I've got meetings set to finalize kind of our Southeast, Northwest, and North Central locations in the coming weeks. Where you could help me out is especially if you're in Southwest Kansas or know someone in Southwest Kansas. We are really still looking for local partners to help co-host and sponsor events in Southwest Kansas and to a certain extent in North Central Kansas as well. So go ahead and send me an email if you're interested in possibly co-hosting or sponsoring one of those events. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Amanda to share about our local food fellows program.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Amanda Lindahl, and I am happy to be on the team in support of the Local Food Fellows program that we're launching right now. So you are the first to learn about this really great opportunity that we have in order to fund a fellow that would be able to work with you and your community on a local food system project. So you can apply now to host a fellow. We have them set up as 320-hour fellowship opportunities, and that they will be working on a project that you choose. So we understand that a lot of our partners across the state of Kansas have been interested and passionate and working really hard on a lot of great projects, and we want to support you by providing this 320-hour fellow and providing the money to cover that person's work. So goals, of course, to increase our local food system capacity all across the state. And the ideas, the projects are really, there's just a wide range of projects that could happen. And I am looking to hear from you what you want to work on and what specific project you'd like to hire a fellow for. So our Regional Food Systems Partnership Grant provides money to pay for these fellows at a $17 an hour rate, which leaves us the opportunity to fund a good number of fellows over the next 2 years. So of course, our first year of the grant is quickly actually coming to an end. So our first fellows will be in 2024 and 2025 of this grant cycle. So we have money in 2 different pools. So it's a little confusing, but we have money to hire K-State student employees, which will be a summer opportunity. And in order to get those for next summer of 2024, I need you guys to apply by September 30th so that we can start that process of putting together, specific job descriptions and hiring those K-State students. So we have money for 16 K-State student employees over the next 2 years. And then separately, we have money to hire what we're calling independent fellows. And this will be an opportunity that we will provide money to your local organization, business, whomever is interested in hosting that fellow, in order to pay them yourself. So not a K-State student employee, separate, and that will provide money for you to hire an independent fellow that will work on your project. And the time frame on those are a little bit more flexible. So you'll notice that we're anticipating having kind of a spring, summer, or fall of next year, a fellow opportunity for those independent fellows. So I encourage you to apply for those now. The link to apply to host a fellow. So there'll kind of be a multi-step process here, and there's a lot of details that I've written out, and it's all available on our website. So please check that out. And like I said, you can really start applying now, thinking about what specific project you want a 320-hour fellow to complete. And if you need help brainstorming that, I've created a list of kind of my own brainstorming already on the website, but I'd love to work with you as well if you need a little bit of help creating a specific project. So that's available, and we hope to be able to use all these grant monies to support getting some great local food system projects off the ground in your area.
Amanda, we do have a question in the chat asking if a private entity such as a farm or food distributor can apply for a fellow.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Mm-hmm. So we're really leaving the options very broad. So absolutely.
I think, we probably wouldn't want to have a fellow be pulling weeds in the field or something like that. But
right.
If you had a project related to marketing or product development or feasibility study, that sort of thing would definitely be or other things, could definitely be an option. Are there any other? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna just jump in quick. So for those of you that have been joining our town halls for a while, we've been talking about this for a while, and we kept saying it's coming. It's here now, finally. So we're really glad that we finally can offer this. We apologize. We would have loved to have it ready by this summer, but it just takes a while. We're super glad Amanda's on board now, so now we can offer this. So we're really excited to be able to offer this. So I'll stop with that, but thanks, Amanda, for all you've done on it.
Are there any other questions for Amanda or myself about any of the grant projects?
Hey Rebecca, Hey Rebecca, this is Aileen. I have a quick question.
Sure.
So I'm thinking about the Kansas Food Action Network and many of our food policy councils who struggle to have staff support for their councils.
Yes.
Is that something that a fellow could work on, is like supporting a local or regional food policy council for a period of time?
Amanda, do you want to answer that?
Yes, the answer is yes. Yeah, of course we would still like to see, kind of a specific project, since it is, limited to that small time frame. But yeah, that's exactly one of the kind of groups we envision being this working out really well for.
Yeah, because I can see how a fellow then could prove to a local government that staff support matters, right? And maybe then build toward more sustainable funding. So great. We'll reach out to you guys and have you guys on a monthly KFAN call so that we can tell our councils about this. So I'll reach out to you later.
Yeah. So I think it's worth pointing out that these fellows, the 320 hours can be pretty flexible. For like a K-State student, it would probably be a more traditional 8-week full-time summer type project. But for the independent fellows in particular, it does not have to be a full-time. It could be 20 hours a week. It could be 10 hours a week, you know, whatever kind of allotment makes sense for the project, you know, to be able to get the work done over the amount of time that's appropriate. So we're kind of learning as we're going, but that's the intention anyway. I would also say, you know, particularly for the K-State Student Fellows, you'll notice the apply by September 30th. The process for hiring K-State students for summer employment is a pretty drawn out process. And Amanda and I have learned that a lot of our K-State students, especially the good ones, like to have their summer opportunities lined up by the fall, by October, November, December of that fall semester. So that's, you know, the timeline is going to be pretty critical, especially for those K-State students. Okay, so, you know, again, just check out the website for more information. And with that, I think we'll open it up to anyone that has any updates that they would like to share about their projects. I'm going to take the screen share down so we can see each other a little bit better if we want to. But does anyone have any announcements or things they'd like to share? And feel free to just unmute or, you know, raise your hand and I'll call on you.
I can jump in to get us started.
Go for it.
Seed for discussion or seed for thought, maybe. So as always, we have a number of upcoming produce safety trainings, and then also on worker protection standard. Actually, we just had one right before this on pesticide safety, but we have farm tours and on FSMA PSA training, which is produce safety. So anyway, there's lots of different things coming up. I'm hearing an echo, so I'll stop talking.
I didn't hear it on our end, so you're okay, Londa. You can also put your updates in the chat if you want. I'm going to drop in a couple things that were shared with me privately. One is the 2024 Urban Food Systems Symposium is going to be held in Ohio next year, and that'll be, I believe the dates are June 11th through the 13th or thereabouts. So you can check out their website and maybe make plans to attend that if you're interested in that. And also that Ohio State is hiring an urban ag specialist for their team. So if you know someone with that, then go ahead and share that opportunity with them. Courtney looks like dropped in from KDHE that they have added some resources to promote local foods and farmers markets on their website. So go ahead and check that out. Anyone else with any announcements, things to share?
I have an announcement. This is Jackie. On August 14th will be a organic transition info session in Sabetha and a farm tour. And I'll put my contact info in the chat.
Thanks, Jackie. Suzanne from K-State Olathe put in the chat about the certificate or master's in horticulture urban food systems. Suzanne, do you want to unmute and share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So we have the certificate that's all online now, and we have the master's at the Olathe campus. We're having just an informational webinar with faculty about that program. So if you or anyone you know might be interested, we welcome you to join us for that webinar.
Thanks, Suzanne. Does anyone else have anything to share or announcements? I don't have the link handy, but I know that the Sedgwick County Extension Office is still looking to fill my previous position, the horticulture agent position there. So that is an opportunity for someone with a horticulture background. Anything else? Okay, I see Elizabeth dropped the KSRE job openings link in the chat. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I tried to drop it in, but it sorry, it did not. Elizabeth's looks much better than mine. Sorry.
Fair enough. Okay. So with that, if we don't have any other discussion or updates, so we're trying something a little different this month for our evaluation to kind of wrap up. We are doing a closing poll instead. And so I will launch that here in just a minute. Okay. So you should see the poll up in front of you, and there's 4 questions, so you'll have to scroll down to respond. And the first one is just, did you learn something new today? We're asking which topic was most valuable to you, how many people you'll share something from today's town hall with, and suggestions for speakers or topics. So if you do, feel free to drop those in the chat, or of course you can always email myself or Amanda or Londa or one of our other K-State team members. So I'll give you a few minutes to complete that poll. And so I think, I know many of you have been on these town halls in the past, but there were a number of new folks. So these town halls are held quarterly. They are a project of our K-State Research and Extension local food transdisciplinary team. And so we have been doing these for since October of 2021 as a way to kind of connect with folks across the state and share information. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And with that, I do want to share about our next town hall. So our next town hall will be on Wednesday, October 18th, also at 11 a.m. You'll notice that normally the town halls have been the 4th Wednesday of the month, or of the month in that particular quarter, but we had to move it a week earlier this coming quarter because our K-State Research and Extension Annual Conference is the last week of October. So most of us running the town hall would be committed to other things that day. So you can register for that town hall at the link or by scanning the QR code on your screen. And then again, a reminder that all of the recordings and notes from the various town halls will be on the website. So today's will take a few days to get everything uploaded, but we'll be there eventually if you want to share any information on that as well. And thanks to those of you that are dropping information into the chat about topics. Okay. So that is all that we have on the schedule for today. So one last call for any other announcements or things like that. And if not, we'll thank you for joining us today and look forward to seeing you all in October and hopefully seeing you send Amanda requests for fellow participants.
Rebecca, did you figure out how to save the poll?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
I
great.
downloaded the results. So
Okay, great. I was like, I still have it open on my screen here, and I was like, do I need to leave this open?
yeah. Yeah, I was keeping everything up until I had that